The 88th edition of the Royce Boys podcast starts right now.
It's not about you. It's about the name on the front of your jersey.
And ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot. Good. Off the glass. Oklahoma calls timeout. But the game is over. The game is over. Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma.
With 20 seconds left to play. Goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good. 63-62. 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with 1 timeout. Fred Brown looking. Oh, way to Worthy. Worthy 5. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship.
Rebounded by Weber. Michigan out of timeout. Weber front court. Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. They're out of timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul. Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out the head. Long outside shot. Short rebounded. It's over. Carolina has won the national championship. How about them Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
That's it! Make room for 2017. The Tar Heels are the national daggum champions.
That's what it's all about right there. That's on the floor. That's on your shirt. That's in your heart. That's why we're all here.
This is the Royce Boys podcast with your host, Joshua Marlowe.
Everybody, we're going to welcome you into another edition of the Royce Boys podcast. We're powered by Carolina Electrical Services. We want to apologize for the delay in getting this podcast to you guys. Had some technical difficulties, not once, not twice, but 3 times this week in trying to record the game or the podcast after the Virginia game. I then tried to record a separate podcast with my brother that just mixed down into 4 other podcasts. So it's been an interesting week for us, but we are going to look back to that Virginia game, as unfortunate as we have to do that. Carolina lost 56-47, and I'm bringing my favorite co-host of all time, Anthony, in. And look, buddy, we hung out, we watched the game together, and it was one of those where the animals in my house were not fans of it because the yelling and screaming got extremely vulgar and extremely loud because of the frustration levels we've experienced during that 2 hours or so.
Yes, one of your dogs was sleeping during the game, and you actually scared the dog that much that you woke it up, and he freaked out. Cooper was not very happy about the fact that the Tar Heels were not playing well. Neither were we, though. You're right. I mean, I'm just looking at the stats now. 7.1% from 3. I'm pretty sure I have a better success rate with women, which is extremely low. So it is not, right now the offense, I mean, we have to keep bringing this up every time, but it is not where Carolina wants it to be right now. They've had about as much success shooting the ball as we've had so far this week with technology. It has not been good. It has not been good. So,
it feels like the offensive production, or just to talk about the offense, is going to mirror what we did last year on the Heel Tough Blog podcast, where for the last 6 weeks we talked about, is Larry Fedora going to get fired?
We cannot throw the deep ball. Well, no, don't say that, because then you're going to have the people that are going to think this show is Roy going to be fired?
That'll never happen.
That is nowhere near what we're talking about. Oh, yeah, no, he could literally go winless for like 7 straight years. And we'd be he's still good enough.
Yeah, this is the best guy ever.
It's the players.
But, this game was weird because in the first 6 or 7 minutes, Carolina got good looks. Their offense was really good.
Right.
It went back to what you've been hammering really since the Elon game. The lack of shooting on this team is what is the most discouraging part, because the last 2 years we got spoiled with Cam Johnson, Kenny Williams, Luke May. You added Kobe White to the mix last year. This team could fill it up from 2 or from 3. They could score 100 in their sleep at certain times.
Yeah.
And this year, I mean, Carolina, they haven't scored 50 points in back-to-back games for the first time since 1948.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that we're accustomed to. Definitely not something I think we've seen. I mean, look, before Cam got there, Kenny got there, Joel got there was that stretch during the early Marcus Page days into sort of the middle part of Marcus Page's career, where they really struggled to shoot the basketball from deep. But inside the arc, they were successful. This year, it just seems like nothing is falling unless you are right near the basket. And I'm gonna slide my keyboard back here, and I'm gonna do something so that maybe it will actually get the point home. I'm going to pound the table. Put the ball inside. Put the ball inside. We keep saying that, and that is the only chance that I think this team has. Is to put the ball inside. And here's the other thing. You've got to be able to rebound better than you've rebounded the last 2 games, especially on the offensive glass with how many misses there are. If you can, that was what Carolina was so successful with against Oregon and against the other opponents that they beat this year, which aren't on the same level as Oregon, but are what you're going to play teams that are like Oregon here for the next couple of weeks outside of Wofford and Yale. So you got to be ready to go. Best way to do that, get on the offensive glass, get those high percentage looks inside when you don't get on the offensive glass, and finish at the rim.
Yeah, you look back at the Ohio State game, this team got out rebounded 48-32, and you can say some of that was you lost Armando Bacot, and okay, I get that.
Ohio State is also a very, very good basketball team at this point in the season. They will. Now they got to be a top 3 team, right?
Well, they're third, and there's a legitimate chance they may.
Oh, they're already
1.
in there. Oh, yeah. There you go.
I was so surprised seeing this team get out rebounded by Virginia. I can't say for a fact that Virginia's ever rebounded Carolina. It doesn't feel like that since Tony Bennett came to Charlottesville that they competed with Carolina on the glass, and I thought, after what happened Wednesday, you would see this team give a little bit more effort in that department, and it wasn't. They got out-rebounded 37-32, and you're right. Sometimes, I said this early in the season, the best offense for Carolina is not going to be its initial offense. It's going to be the second chance points that they can get,
right?
And they didn't get them in the times that they got offensive rebounds. And a lot of that was because when they'd get an offensive rebound, we immediately chucked up a 3. I get the whole notion that that's the best time to shoot a 3 is off an offensive rebound. That's for teams that can shoot the ball.
Yeah.
And it's not when Cole Anthony or Brandon Robinson, who haven't made a bucket since Atlantis, I don't want you chucking a 3 20 or 15 seconds in the shot clock. I don't. Set the offense, repost, put the ball back inside. You were 1 of 14 from 3. That was 7%. Virginia shot 35% from deep. And that was really the ball game.
Right.
Virginia made the threes that Carolina gave them, and we didn't.
Well, yeah, exactly. That was where Virginia really won the basketball game because they didn't shoot the ball well. They actually shot the ball worse than we did. They're 32.7%. And part of the reason is shot selection that we talked about so much. Guys moving without the basketball has been a humongous issue as well. I saw it. It was a stat that was tweeted out by Brian Ives, but he had seen from someone else. I can't remember exactly who it had come from, but he said that just looking at Cole Anthony, I think it's somewhere around 60 or 70% of the threes that he's taken this year have been guarded threes. That's the other thing. A lot of the threes that this team has taken this year have just been terrible shots where you've had a defender draped all over you. I don't understand why they're trying to force something that's not there. The inside game is there. Now, they've got to be better at finishing at the rim because even there they haven't been great. But I think that is your avenue to being a successful enough offense to be able to win games. You don't have to be this high-powered offense. That's not, we just from watching the first few games of this year, first now 9 games of the season, we know, okay, this is not going to be a team that's going to win a lot of games offensively. They're going to have to do it defensively. And so far this season, look, outside of really that Ohio State game, I think this team has looked pretty solid for most of the year. Yeah, Michigan, you had the first half where they looked pretty rough and then early in the second half. But, again, you talk about the teams that Carolina's lost to, all of them are top 10 teams, too. So it's not like they're losing to scrubs. I think their defense is still something to be somewhat confident in. But at this point, offensively, unless they're going to be willing to go inside and lean on Garrison Brooks and Armando Bacot, who have to go up stronger and finish stronger, I don't know if this offense is going to be able to bounce back the way that we're hoping it does.
Yeah, this team is not going to be a Carolina-esque offense where they're going to score 80, 90 in games. We kind of expected that going into the year. I didn't expect them to struggle in the non-conference games against like Elon or Gardner-Webb, we were barely getting into the 70s. That kind of came as a shock. But I think, when you're replacing as much as Carolina is, it was expected. A bright spot that came out of this game was Armando Bacot was able to recover from the ankle injury to play. Kind of shows the toughest level of that kid.
Yeah.
But also, Anthony Harris and Jeremiah Francis made their debuts. And it gives Carolina a couple more options to handle the ball. You saw when they were in the game, they moved Cole Anthony off the ball. So you'll see Roy Williams being able to experiment with that moving forward, seeing if he can get some easier looks for him going the rest of the way. But really just, in the postgame, those kids were disappointed that we got beat, but they hadn't played competitive basketball in a while, especially Jeremiah Francis. And to see those guys just be happy to be on the court again was a neat moment for them.
Well, look, Jeremiah Francis got injured, was it before his senior season? Yes, didn't even play in a game. I knew it was before or it was very, very early in his senior year. So he hasn't played in a long time. Then you look at Anthony Harris, suffered his injury late in the year, was pretty much told, you're not going to play your first year on campus more than likely. We're going to need you to sit there and rehab. Both guys have kind of fought through it, and to see them in action was pretty fun. Anthony Harris looked pretty solid, hit a couple of nice shots, and then with Jeremiah Francis, had a turnover, but looked like he was a guy that might want to push the pace a little bit more, which would be interesting and would be something I think that could help this team too. So, I think having more depth is going to be huge for this Carolina team because that's been one of the other really big issues so far this season with Carolina. This team is nowhere near as deep as we've seen in past years, and Roy Williams likes his teams to run, likes them to rebound, and likes them to be deep. And right now, they're not doing any of the, they weren't doing any of the three. Luckily, we're getting some depth back. It would be great if Sterling Manley could find his way back out there because we're missing that presence off the bench when it comes to a big guy because I think at this point we've just kind of realized that's not what Justin Pierce is. Justin Pierce is really a guy that is meant for the 3 spot and is pretty much just forced into playing 4. That's pretty much what he's become.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to have him back, but I agree with you. Very promising out of the gate with what they showed us early on, and we'll see if maybe they have a chance to build on it on Sunday against a little bit of a weaker opponent.
Yeah, and with that, we'll transition from the Virginia recap, and we'll look at Sunday's game at home against Wofford. This is a unique game for a lot of different things. The game will not be played in the Smith Center. It will be in Carmichael Arena. First time Carolina's played a regular season game in Carmichael since 1986. They did play it in the NIT back there in 2010. But, of course, it counts as a postseason game, so you got that. And also, the last time Wofford came to Chapel Hill, they won. I know this isn't the same Wofford team from 2 years ago. Mike Young's moved on to Virginia Tech.
Thank goodness.
Fletcher McGee is no longer there. Neither is Cameron Jackson, their skilled big man. And this is the team that last year Carolina opened on the road at their place, and the Heels won, but Wofford gave them a game.
Right.
This Wofford team isn't as good. They come in with a 5-4 record, but they've come in winning their last 3. But they're scoring more points than Carolina. They shoot the ball better than Carolina. So you figure like they're going to be able to challenge Carolina to some degree offensively. Are you worried going into Sunday's game?
I don't know if I'm worried that they're going to lose. I'm more worried about if they win, is it going to be another one of those close games where it's going to take a while for Carolina to really establish some sort of space between them and an opponent that they probably should handle without much issue. You mentioned it. Look, Wofford scoring more points per game, but again, they have not played Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, Virginia. They haven't played those type of opponents. So they're scoring a little bit more than Carolina, but against lesser opponents. They're shooting the ball better. 46.4% is okay, not great. I'm not overly concerned going in because, as you mentioned, this is not the same Wofford team as a year ago. If this was that team, coming to Carmichael, oh yeah, I would say we'd be in some trouble. But I don't think they're that good. And the other thing is, this feels like the game, just looking at this particular statistic, where rebounding is, you should be able to out-rebound this team without much issue. You average 45.8 a game. That's what's struggling in the last two. And Wofford comes in averaging 27.9 a game. You should control the glass with ease. That should allow you to win this game. But, you got to make this a game where you come out and